right. This is something that like yesterday people wanted me to check out, and I think it's been going on for a little while now. It is absolutely a problem from what I understand of the situation so far, but I don't know the details. I think I'm going to get a lot of the details here from Agent Sleddy or the leader of Mongrel Squad on an excessive griefing warning. I just think to start out, there is this battle that is going on in the Star Citizen community right now of players who want one game and players who want what was, actually said would be in the game. The players who want absolutely no PvP, nothing, want to be left alone to do their own thing, and players who would like to actually play Star Citizen, which will have some PvP involved. So this is Agent Sleddy's response to CIG's handling of a false excessive griefing claim.
I want to share with you all a concern that I have with CIG's handling of a warning that was given to a fellow pirate, Captain Dirty from Chaos Squad. My subsequent post on Spectrum seeking clarification on where CIG stands on this. Captain Dirty was given a warning for excessive griefing from CIG's customer support service. However, Captain Dirty, and at least 186 other people believe that CIG were in the wrong here. The scenario that resulted in this warning is something that we all could encounter as pirates. A character boarding against a solo player who has a respawn point set to the medbed of the ship.
Okay, so I just want to start also out with CIG has a rule, which is insane to me, that you cannot discuss any moderation on their own forum. I also want to point out
for this player, Carrot,
that Star Citizen is a unfinished game. And I think both of those things are going to play a huge factor in this.
Karen. As with every piracy attack, resistance is expected. However, what this Karen decided to do was refuse to take the loss when the pirate crew had taken positive control of the ship. What ensued was 30 plus minutes of trying to negotiate with Karen, then having to suppress them since they refused any offers.
Right away, bad choice. Bad choice of words. You, Agent Sleddy, and many other pirates have used broken mechanics with Star Citizen many times to pirate. Name calling is not getting you anywhere in this situation. And all that I can tell is happening is the other side is using broken mechanics to avoid losing. Just take the loss. Just take the L. Why? Right? If they have time, they could do this just as well. And like I said earlier, so just in case people don't understand what's happening here, is player here is the player getting pirated. Person here is the person pirating with the gun. Right? Player here continued to respawn in the medbed over and over and over again. This is a common occurrence, apparently. And it is a pirate tactic to stand over the medbed and continue to suppress them and kill them while they do the piracy, right? And it falls in this like super gray area of, is that and I don't think it's gray. I think it's black and white, and it's not griefing because both sides are kind of in a tough spot here, right? But I'll let it continue. It's a 12-minute video, so I'll try to get in
their newly
response.
captured prize by killing good old Karen over and over again. Eventually, the Carrick's medbay was full of bodies from the suppression of this persistent player. And due to lag, Captain Dirty was eventually taken down by Karen However, his crew continued to salvage the carrack until it was stripped of all value and then handed back to the owner. If you wish to see the hit, then the link will be in the description of this video. I'll link it with a card at the top right hand side of the screen as well. A post was made on the Star Citizen Reddit with a screenshot showing PES in its glory with piles of Karen's bodies littering the carrack's medbay. That post has over 2,000 upvotes. Also linked in the description of this video. However, Captain Dirty received an email from CIG shortly after warning him of excessive griefing and kindly asked that he refrain from this type of behavior going forward, informing him that future incidents could result in more severe penalties.
That's insane. That's insane. That is insane. How is it the player who's respawning, like, I want to be very clear here. It is not the player who's respawning over and over against Vault. That's why this whole Karen thing is ridiculous as well. He is using an in-game mechanic just the same way that you could have vaulted for it before. You could have blown up your own ship. All those things were in-game problems that CIG has now suppressed with game dev solutions. Right? We now have another one that needs to be addressed. That's it. Who you should be mad at, who you should be giving a hard time to, is CIG for not fixing the problem. It is not griefing to not get killed by this player. That is spawning over and over again, which you can see in the video. Eventually, he used the insane desync that we have with players in FPS to get behind the pirate and knock him out and then stomp on his head and send him to prison, right? So at what point is either player the actual problem? No point. The game is the problem, right? Should this be a prioritized fix right now? I think you have an argument that it's not, okay? But what CIG absolutely should not be doing, and this is a complete joke, is sending a warning for excessive griefing when both players are. Both players are excessive griefing at that point, and both players are abusing the game mechanic that shouldn't exist in the game. The only comment that should be made is Star Citizen is an unfinished game, and this is something we'll be looking at in the future. That is so stupid.
Since the first email didn't tell him why he was getting the warning.
CIG moderation on their website, CIG's comments around griefing and everything have been a joke from the start.
He followed it up to confirm if it had to do with the medbay incident on the carrack, which they confirmed, and then shut down any further dialogue by stating that they consider the incident closed and may not respond to further inquiries. If you wish to learn more, Captain Dirty made a response video to the emails.
And again, they just close it. No response, nothing, no conversation. Done.
And the scenario explaining his side of the story. Link in the description and in the card in the top right corner. This is a re-upload since the original video had audio issues, and after seeing my Spectrum posts had been deleted, he had also decided to sanitize the email screenshots so as not to display the CIG customer service employee's name that he was speaking to, in case he was unintentionally violating CIG's terms of service again. When I found out that Captain Dirty received a warning from CIG, I was furious and very concerned. I had watched the video of the whole incident, and what I observed was a player who couldn't take a loss and was just doing whatever they could to disrupt the pirates from being able to profit from their captured prize.
I love Letty, but Letty is biased as fuck in this scenario. Like, biased as fuck, okay? And that's okay. It's expected, right? This is all you do. This is your life. You know, this is your lifeblood of the game for you. I understand being biased. I'm biased in another scenario in the game. Incredibly biased in something else that I've been complaining about lately. I'm not putting him down for that, you know? I'm not saying this is his life in real life. I'm saying this is his Star Citizen life, right? But you got to recognize that as well.
Considering the exposure that the screenshot had received on the Star Citizen Reddit, It is highly likely that CIG's customer service caught wind of what happened through some belligerent, militant, anti-PvP members of the Star Citizen community
They don't have to.
who made disingenuous claims against Captain Dirty and what
ended up
happened.
winning.
And CIG acted on it. If you watch the video of the hit, then you would be hard-pressed to disagree that CIG only acted on the screenshot, because it sure as hell looks like they didn't watch the video at all, which led to my Spectrum post. Comply or die. For gameplay doesn't work if you're going to give out warnings to players when they enforce the consequences of not complying. Which I would link to you for you to read in your own time, except I can't because it was deleted from Spectrum because posting screenshots and videos that include the details of player support interactions and discussing those is against CIG's standard of conduct, as well as the unkind replies against staff members throughout the discussion. However, as a positive, they did say that they passed on this feedback towards their relevant teams. Fortunately, one of my—
anything you discuss moderation at all, it instantly gets deleted. If you even say the word CIG mods, deleted. They are insanely defensive, and it is bad precedent. There can be no, like, I have a lot of issues with the fact that you can be completely aggressive to anybody who has a negative opinion about the state of the game, the state of a feature, whatever, and that just lives on the website forever. But the moment that you have a negative opinion towards somebody who's saying something positive or whatever, or like don't agree with somebody in that nature, bang, you're getting hit. Like, you know, there's a perfect example of J3PT on the website. Insanely aggressive towards anyone who has a negative opinion about something, right? I rarely ever see him get moderated, ever. But you can't comment on those things on the website where the moderation is, because they'll immediately delete you, delete the thread, everything.
Members saved a copy of the HTML page, and another was able to provide screenshots and videos of the replies to the post. There's personal information on the HTML page, which I've omitted from the video here. However, I won't be sharing it outside of the video. What I will do is post screenshots of the OP and the video of the replies on Mongrel Squad's public guilded server for you to see for yourself, which contain the latest replies and statistics prior to my post being deleted. Once again, links in the description below. The crux of my Spectrum post was highlighting all of the evidence associated with the incident, providing counter arguments to the accusation of excessive griefing against Captain Dirty by pointing out that Karen had other options that they could have explored to get out of the encounter, pointing out that CIG had now set a dangerous precedent with customer service could be manipulated to be weaponized against players now that they are given out a warning with an easy to replicate scenario. How the handling of the incident brings into question where future gameplay could be interpreted as excessive grief.
Bro, I don't know what's happening right now. I did everything that I was told to fix this YouTube buffering issue, and I don't know why.
Due to the nature of
it's being so
being
weird.
Disruptive. And then posing to CIG a question, when does an individual's responsibility for the gameplay cease to be their responsibility and become CIG's? Whilst there are a few detractors trying to push ridiculous counterpoints, the majority were in agreement that CIG had made a mistake with how they handled this incident, with many players offering in-game solutions to prevent this scenario from being possible again. I was never expecting a reply from CIG with regards to the question, but
like, that's the part that I'm not liking so far about this video, is so far we've touched on about 5 seconds of what the actual problem is, which is the fact that the player could respawn consistently over and over again. I think if you are going to, you cannot give that player a hard time, because all he's using is a situation in the game to, you know, ensure that he wins, which is, you know, I've seen Mongrel Squad drop boxes through a ship to ensure that it is marked, right? You know, using a bug to, you know, track players, things like that. Should that be allowed? Probably not, but right? Like, it allows for the existence of piracy. Like, you earned it. Like, I look at that as a good, like, hey, good on you, Mongrel Squad. That's awesome. You know, how can CIG turn that into an actual thing where we can, you know, put something on a ship and track you, and maybe people on the ship can look for the tracker and then take it off and get rid of it, right? And then, so in this scenario, it's just like, okay, this is obviously something that player should not have been allowed to do, right? It is obviously a scenario where that player should not be allowed to respawn 30 fucking times, right? Like, there's no way that should be allowed to happen. That's the issue here. There's no way that should have been allowed to happen. Period. End of story. And the player should be able to defend themselves against the other player doing that. Both are doing exactly what they should do to ensure their survival, right? The player who's shooting him over and over again never should be getting a warning. The player who's doing it, who's respawning over and over again, should not be called Carrick Karen. Right? It's the issue is the medbed.
But I felt compelled to bring this up not only before CIG, but the community as well. Then the working week started for CIG and the thread was deleted, which is infuriating, disheartening, and concerning. I regularly check Spectrum to see what the community is talking about, if there's any new information, and also to voice my opinions, ideas, observations, and experiences. I've had threads locked, modified, and deleted before. I'm also one of the few people who has had a thread unlocked after a moderation review. But the reason why I feel infuriated, disheartened, and concerned is because to me the deletion reinforces a dangerous precedence where CIG isn't doing their due diligence when it comes to claims about excessive griefing. And if you try and bring it up in front of the community, they're going to shut you up. It's censorship. CIG, you've essentially said you can give us feedback, but it must be in the way that we want it to be given. If we don't like what you have to say, then we'll silence you. Well, that's not how feedback works. Not the type that encourages growth. That is a cold, corporate approach to handling customer dissatisfaction, far removed from the roots of where CIG came from, and that isn't the type of company that I want to support. Tumblr from Ramming Department made a similar thread after mine was deleted, broaching the topic of the term of service violation whilst carefully tiptoeing around ensuring not to mention customer service. It's also linked in the description. Head over there, have a read, comment if you want, and upvote if you agree. This entire situation had me reanalyzing my stance on CIG, Star Citizen, and doing content creation of myself and Mongrel Squad playing Star Citizen. I've always stated that there are two goals for Mongrel Squad when posting Star Citizen content. Promote Mongrel Squad and promote piracy gameplay in Star Citizen. And I know we've been succeeding at both. We're not a huge channel, but we are growing, and I know our videos have inspired players to buy into Star Citizen so that they could raise the black and play the game as Space Pirate, even in its unfinished state. What CIG gets out of our videos doesn't correlate to what we get out of CIG. We paid to play their game, and they give us permission to show off their game and monetize the content. But if you read the terms of service, that can be revoked at any time. I was okay with this because I felt that our contributions would help achieve the vision to build the best damn space sim ever. I was okay with supporting the independent studio who was bucking the trend of chasing profit by not compromising and pushing the boundaries of what was possible for a video game.
Oh yeah, they're not chasing profit at all.
As I said before, CIG took a cold corporate approach to handling customer dissatisfaction, and I don't like where I'm seeing this going. For the better part of today, I've been wrestling with my conscience on what I should do next. I feel partially responsible because I encourage people to get out there and do piracy. Videos that we publish encourage people to buy into Star Citizen. I feel like what I've done is led them into a trap where they have no clue of what we can and can't do. And the best we can hope for is that we don't get banned playing the game as pirates. And I don't like that.
So I saw somebody post like hashtag ad for his YouTube channel. This is not a hashtag ad for his YouTube channel that he was doing there. He was going, I have made videos. I have excited people about piracy, and he absolutely has that. If you guys have not, I'll hashtag ad for him. If you have not seen that, the Mongrel Squad YouTube channel, it is like some binge-worthy type content as far as Star Citizen and what player interactions can be like. I've definitely binged the YouTube channel plenty of times, and they've inspired me to want to do things like piracy, right? It's good. The problem here is that he's saying, I made these things going, this is what's possible. This is what we can do. And CIG's kind of got our back here in the sense of you can do piracy in the game. They've always said that you can do piracy in the game. Xylo coming out saying, we want you to have a in-game solution for your in-game problems, essentially, right? So if you're getting pirated, fight back, right? That's what they want to see. And then this happened. So now everything that he's said means nothing, is essentially. Anything about piracy means nothing at this point.
CIG has stated piracy is something that you can do in this game. Never articulated what piracy entails beyond their Galactopedia post, but that doesn't explain how it's supposed to work in game. Everything you have seen us do on this channel has been from analysing what CIG has added to the game, theory crafting methods on how we can leverage what we have to pursue what we want, and an extensive testing and revisiting of ideas based on results. We didn't end up in the position we're in by accident. We worked our asses off to get to this point. Now it feels like the rug we're standing on is connected to a rope under tension, ready to be pulled out from under us if we do the wrong thing, irrespective if we knew it or not.
Bad, it's awesome.
All the while, CIG points at their game and says, you can do piracy in our game. And here I am making and releasing videos and telling others, come do piracy, it's great. Oblivious to the rope attached to that rug. I enjoy making our videos, sharing our stories, interacting with you all here, in-game and out. However, I was considering gating all of our content behind our public server and keeping it all internal. No paywall, just no advertisement for CIG either. Just so I wouldn't have this weight hanging over me. That content that I am making and distributing isn't putting players into a position where they give CIG their money and they get stitched up by CIG for doing something they didn't know was wrong. That wouldn't achieve anything. Star Citizen has turned into a behemoth, and the next lot.
Yeah, like, I understand his frustration here is he's exciting people for piracy. Other people go out and do it, and then they get banned from the game and lose the money that they put into the account. That's crazy.
Content creators step up to fill the void that we would leave, and the cycle would continue. Instead, the idea is to maintain the course, continue growing, expand our influence, and not only continue to display piracy gameplay, but also raise our collective voices in the Star Citizen community when CIG does something that we don't like. There's a line in the message I received when they deleted my post. It's copy-paste because it's in the previous mod message about another deleted post I'd received. But this line reads, while we hope to avoid doing so, should similar or repeated conduct be observed, more severe penalties may be applied to your account, leading up to a temporary suspension. The context for that line has to do with Spectrum posts for now. How long until it becomes the discussion of any moderation or customer service interaction anywhere? Could they enforce it? Well, just like Captain Dirty's incident with Carrot Karen and their medbed, only when they want to, using what evidence they could be bothered to collect. What could CIG do to help change my point of view?
What? YouTube, why?
This is hard for me to say because I'm the type of person who expects
this is only YouTube that does this.
Actions, not words, to show change. Right now,
look at it now.
All CIG can do is
this is so ridiculous. I don't understand.
Offer words, and I know that their words have to.
I don't know why it's doing this. I might switch browsers at this point. I'm assuming it's Chrome.
To be carefully chosen so they don't commit themselves to a course of action that they.
I'm watching at 1080p, guys.
I have to do
900 down.
These are my suggestions.
Look at this. I'll just lower the resolution because it's just voice that matters. So we'll just go 720 and see what happens. Someone told me to change a Windows setting in a comment about this, and I did that. And now look, it's just dead. Hardware acceleration's off, everything. Yep. Just dead. Yeah, I'm literally streaming with no issues at all. It's not my internet. Yep. I don't know. Video stats. It just says network activity 0. Right? Like, it just makes no sense. So, I just say that I think the point is across anyway, and I'll just end the react there.
High upvote counts, 100 plus,
there
and
it
have
goes.
modifications made to them, by CIG moderation if they're in violation of the rules. If that's too much work, perhaps a sin bin for posts that give the opportunity to the OP to adjust them to be compliant with CIG's rules for posting on Spectrum. And I'd also like to see the word griefer given the same treatment as the word Care Bear by CIG moderation to breed a
Yep.
healthier environment for discussions on topics that some players are vehemently against. For in-game mechanics, I'd like to see mechanics that have the potential to be abused in a way that could result in a community member being put into a position of being accused of breaking terms of service and be given a higher priority for being addressed by developers, i.e. infinite spawns on ship medbeds. And if they can't be addressed in the short term, communicate what constitutes abuse of that mechanic and what doesn't until the functionality in-game lines up with your intent. These aren't demands.
Yes,
they're not expectations.
that's my point of view.
They're nice to have. I think would go a long way to addressing the concerns that I and potentially many others have.
Look at the buffer health. It eventually just goes down, but maybe that's because the video was ending. Yeah. Anybody watching this react on YouTube have any ideas of what's going on there? I have perfectly clean internet, yet this is going to happen all day probably. But as far as the video goes, I think the ending is what matters the most. Is piracy and medical gameplay does not look at your intent whatsoever. It is not the intent of the way the game is supposed to be played right now. None of it exists the way it's supposed to be played right now. So why are we moderating it as if the current game even remotely represents what you're trying to deliver? And we're moderating players who are just trying to play the game. The guy who's trying not to die and the guy who is trying to win. Neither of them are at fault. It's your fault for not finishing the game. It's your fault for not prioritizing this. And in the end, it's really nobody's fault because they probably shouldn't prioritize those things. So yeah. Both players are at fault here. If you cannot see that, it's insane. Both players are using game mechanics that should not exist, and the solution to the problem is fixing that. I think it's very clear that medbeds should have limited respawns that you can refresh by adding some sort of consumable. Medical supplies to an inventory cabinet there, whatever, right? Simple as that. Maybe have medical supplies in your cargo hold that you can move through a thing. It's very simple that no player should be able to respawn at a medbed for free 30 times. Just shouldn't be allowed. And then the other player should not be allowed to just stand over a medbed and shoot somebody 30 times, right? So obviously they're both problematic. And that's what I think we need to see, is that both things are problematic. And the solution is a game development solution, not a content moderation solution from CIG at all. It is the only solution to this problem is fixing the game, not moderating players playing your crappy game right now. I can't believe we are getting mad at the way players are playing your crappy game right now. That's not the solution. Period. You should be happy people are playing this garbage. God bless. God bless that people are still playing this game, right? You should be so happy. You should be so happy people still love this game. Both players were playing the game most likely because they love it. And one of them got yelled at for playing the game. It's insane. It's insane.